The biggest names in rugby league are gathering at Headingley this evening to raise money and awareness of brain health within the sport.
The Rugby League Cares Brain Health Fund offers support and education and also helps current and former players with issues caused by neurodegenerative illnesses such as dementia and Alzheimer's.
Good evening. Could I just offer you the warmest of welcomes tonight to Headingley Stadium on behalf of Rugby League Cares. Thank you all so much for joining us on this very special evening with an iconic Rugby League legend as well. The turnout tonight, it kind of says it all. Just have a look around. We cannot thank you enough for coming supporting the newly launched Brain Health Fund. Could you just give yourselves a massive round of applause for being here? Thank you.
Because the culture in which I was brought up in, it was that if you stay down after a head knock, you're showing weakness, but everything that I've learned since then about, even when it comes down to being the most productive version of yourself on the field, what's best for the team, what's best for your own personal success and the team's success, it means looking after your brain. That is the most important muscle that we have in the body. If that doesn't fire properly, the body doesn't. That's the key message that I think a lot of the players get now. They get that message that actually when we're at our 100% up here, the rest will follow. When we're at 50%, that's when the injuries come. And that is when it's the darkest time for players. So for players out there, understanding looking after your noggin, looking after your head is the most important muscle that comes way before everything else.
I'm so proud to be linked with Rugby League Cares. I think for me, I work in the game. It's my livelihood, but also as a mother, I have a lot of people that ask me, would I like my children to play the game? With a fund like this, I think to have that knowledge, to have that support, 100%, I have no issues at all with it. Rugby league, I grew up watching my father play, watching my grandfather play. It's always been a huge part of my life, and I think in this later day, we know the risks, we know what's at stake, but to have a fund like that in the background, supporting players and offering that kind of help is huge.
Right, guys, I'm sure you'll raise a roof at this point. We're just about to welcome him into the room. It is the time we've all been waiting for. And I'm doing it to music as well, by the sounds of things as well. So will you please welcome not only one of the greatest, most decorated rugby league players of all time, he's also the most inspirational and humble person that anyone could meet. Will you please raise a room for the one and only Kevin Sinfield OBE. Wow, that is unbelievable. Kev, I've never had a reception like that ever before, mate, to tell you the truth. That is some reception, Kev. I can't imagine how you must feel when you walk into that. It's like coming home for you, this.
Yeah, it's really special to be back. To hear what this fund is going to achieve and what it's going to set out to do means it combines a couple of passions of mine, which are rugby league and helping people. So it's great to be here. The support has been incredible right from day dot when I got asked if I'd attend tonight and be the guest. I was really humbled by it. I think to be here at the forefront of something that the sport is doing to help past, current and future players is really, really important for our sport. And if you follow my journey, you understand that a couple of years ago, I moved across to the dark side, as people call it. But I think I was quickly, I was really keen to stay and have an involvement in rugby league because it's given me everything I've got. So when Rugby League Cares asked me to be a trustee, it was really important to me, and I know Chris has just mentioned that welfare side is really important to myself. I think having been a captain for some time and understanding the trials and tribulations that players go through, and have an understanding of that, and actually being in a position where I can try and help. I will share with you, I got my own brain scanned at the start of June. It's part of a process that the RFL have put forward. I think it's a wonderful thing to be open to past players, and I think it's really important we're educated properly. I think it's really important we understand the environmental factors, and there's some that we can change the path of what can be in front of some of us. I think it's really important. So to be involved here tonight, I'm really, really happy, delighted. Once again, I see support's been incredible. to see some of the names I've just seen out there, like massively humbled to see the good and great of our wonderful sport here tonight.
Brilliant seeing they're all here for you as well, Kev. I know you mentioned there that you went to the dark side. We're all massive rugby league fans as well. The room is just full. I think there's 300 rugby league sort of people connected to our sport and just one, Brian Redpath from Rugby Union. Does that kind of make you feel like you've not really been welcome there just yet?
I'm sure we'll get into this later on. And I'm sure Ellery will be able to vouch for me when we talk about rugby union, but rugby lads are rugby lads and rugby girls are rugby girls. And the great thing I've found is that actually the people are exactly the same. They might have a little bit more money than us, but actually they want to help and they care about each other, and that's what rugby does. I've not seen another sport environment that can create what rugby does for teams, for people who are part of those teams. You don't have to look at the great work by the Scottish Rugby Union guys with Doddy and I think the coming together of both codes through some difficult times has shown that we are closer than we've ever been, but there's some wonderful people across there.
I think if any players have got any concerns, what they need to do, because sometimes they keep it to themselves, don't they? Now we've got this, hopefully that will be a huge support platform for them.
Yeah, I think the education now is better than it's ever been, and we've got to keep moving that forward and moving with the times, and through the vast amount of research that's going on now, we need to make sure our education is updated as quickly as possible. So for any players moving forward, your medical teams now are brilliant and they have a great understanding of the brain and how we move the game forward. And so first protocol would obviously be speak to somebody, speak to your medical team, speak to current players, speak to past players, speak to parents, speak to family. The biggest thing is you have to open your mouth, you have to communicate, and that stigma that was once there about being the tough guy who got whacked and was able to get up, yeah, that'll always be a part of rugby because that's what people do when they play rugby. We've got to understand, we've got to look after our heads because we only get one of them. And we've got to make some smart decisions. We've got to help people make smart decisions, and that's by opening some ways so that people can talk and get things off their chest and ask questions they need to ask.
Absolutely, thanks, Kev, as well. I'm probably bring this section to a close. I'll be getting you up a little bit later on, but I'm pretty hungry, to be honest, so I'll probably just speak to you a little bit later on. But just want to say, just so good to see your old Rhinos teammates over there as well. That must put a lump in your throat. Just the memories of that camaraderie that you've always had, just seeing them must be amazing.
Yeah, they're all great guys, and I was very fortunate that I played among some players who were some of the best the club had ever produced. The vast majority came through the system as well. So to see him here tonight, and then also, I know you mentioned it, Pete, but there's also another team in here who have helped with the stuff we've done for Rob, and they're just as special as well.
Absolutely, Kev, as well. We'll speak about them a little bit later on tonight. Kev, you deserve that hero's welcome. I know you hate all that, but you certainly do. What a pleasure to have him here tonight. I'll be speaking to him later. Just put your hands together one more time for Kev Sinfield.
The fact that players now are much more protected, and I think that's so crucially important. I mean, you'll get some spectators, and their view is that the game's got too soft. But I think that until you're in that situation and the implications of all the head injuries, what's happened over the last few years, I think it's so crucial and important that we protect the players. We have those scans afterwards. We make sure we take all precautions, that all tackles are below the neck completely. I think it's crucial and important.
You know, you've got players who are informed and they're encouraged to be open. I think that's a massive step forward. I think we always knew that, you know, if you keep whacking your head, then there's not going to be a great outcome. I think that's all along since the game started. But there's now, you know, there's information for players. The medical side are a lot better, like I said, and I think it just it makes that game as safe as it possibly can be.
Could I just have your attention, please, just for a few short moments? Apologies on interrupting your meal. We've got a lot of people here tonight who wanted to pay tribute to the great Kev Sinfield as well. So we've actually got a little bit of footage we'd like you to take a look at, just to see how well loved Super Kev actually is. Thank you.
Yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing here? What's the camera for?
We got a dinner with Kevin Sinfield coming up in November. Yeah.
Is that why you've been doing there's been about 10 people being interviewed here. What about Kev?
Yeah, just
it's a bit indulgent.
How
many people do you need to say, oh, Kev is, he's brilliant, all his achievements, and sometimes, it just gets a bit tiresome, and especially if you speak to Kev. You ever spoke to Kev about his career? Wow, man, five grand finals on the spin. Every time, text me October the 1st every year. Do you remember this time, 10 years ago, 5th time we beat you on the spin? It's just, and then he goes and does one to rugby union, and leaves us all stranded. So what do you want me to do? You want me to speak about Kev?
If you can, in a positive way, is that doable?
Yeah. Yeah, Kev's fantastic. What a great fella. I think what he's done in the game is exceptional. His achievements, wow. A role model. Somebody I've always looked up to. Humble, never speaks about his achievements either, surprisingly. And from a man from such humble beginnings to do what he's done, it's truly remarkable. Is that right? Good.
I think it's got to be better. It must be better because a lot of nasty things on the park was taking place in that period. I'm not proud of a lot of things I did, but that was the sport. And being an Englishman going out to Australia, you were a target every week. I used to sort of spend hours thinking about what and how I was going to protect myself, and looking and studying the opposition and saying, look, it's a good idea if he don't stay on the field and stuff like that. But that was the game in those days, and I'm so pleased now that it's played in a different manner.
The women's game only 3 years ago, 3 seasons ago, forced there to be medical professionals on the pitch, and that's only 3 years ago. We think about back to the 2017 World Cup and how fantastic that was, and things weren't in place then. So it's only been really recently that the game's developed, and therefore so have the background staff. And so now you're not allowed to play a game without a medical professional there, and that's huge. The girls appreciate now that you take a head knock and there's protocols, because that was something the girls got used to, going back to training, having to take a few days off and gradually build up. All came quite heavy, but the right thing to do. So it's been a lot of adjusting for the girls to do, but the right thing to do.
I'd like you to have a look at the screens and you can take a look at just the importance of the Brain Health Fund. Thank you.
I think players spend their careers trying to look after every part of the bodies, but probably neglect the brain.
Got Kevin Sinfield, it's high. He got clattered by Michael Monaghan, and Sinfield has stayed down. And no action from the touch judge or the referee.
Oh, that's a head clash.
So it starts off with education, which I think is really, really important. That's with current and former players, just to make them aware of the importance of brain health, the risks that they can be subject to through rugby league and the potential challenges in later life, but also what they can do to support their brain health throughout their careers and after their careers. Beyond that, it's also a big fundraising push to make sure that we've got enough support there financially to give people what they need and to do what we need across the sport, and then providing afterwards. So if people do find that they've got challenges after they've finished playing, they can come to Rugby League Cares, and we can have a system in place that can provide for them, their family and those around them to make sure they've got what they need for either investigation, diagnosis or long-term support.
I had no understanding of what a brain injury was when I started playing. There was no information about it. Nobody really talked about subconcussion or what concussion could cause in the future. We just played the game, and I played the game as it was then, which was quite brutal, very gladiatorial in the sense of like one-on-one combat wasn't unusual as a fight would break out. So the game was very tough, but not as tough as it is these days in the sense of impacts and collisions. It was a tough game. Brain injury and thinking about early onset dementia, CTE, anything that in the future could affect me because of those concussions or those head knocks, it wasn't relevant. I don't think it was relevant to the time. Nobody really spoke about it, and there was an air of toughness about being able to get up off the floor.
when I played, it was a badge of honour to stay on when you was concussed, and that's hard for me to say, but it was true. You just didn't give in to concussion, and you know, and now the education, what we have and what we're aware of, and the desire we have to look after our players is immense, and I would definitely do things different.
The Rugby League Cares Brain Health Fund has been established to allow the sport to deliver a programme of support that educates, protects and assists players and their families with issues concerning neurodegenerative illness.
I think looking at the safety of the sport's an interesting, almost philosophical question. I think you've got being able to identify injuries, whether those are physical or brain injuries, and then also you've got the activities that cause those. I think the game's tougher than it's been in terms of how the athletes are prepared, but I also think in terms of how players are supported is the best it's been. So ultimately, when we look at the rates of concussion, you know, they are high, but ultimately that's because we've been able to identify concussions.
We can help past players and current players to understand there's always a way to help yourself.
We're going into clubs and we're delivering brain health education to current players. So it's just to make sure people are having that information updated throughout their careers, so that constant evolution that we're seeing on the medical and science side is being delivered in real time to those people playing.
I think as rugby league players, we want to just continue on. You know, I'm running fine, I'm passing fine, I'm kicking fine. Everything feels normal. But I think the scary thing with concussion is the long-term effects down the track, whether it's going to affect me or not. So that was always in the back of my mind, and yeah, knowing what to do was the big questions, the big answers that I had to sort of come up with.
All of that education and dialogue I spoke about is about providing that best evidence so that those who take part can make an informed choice.
Having all the information for myself to make the decision, and you know, everyone has been very supportive at KR, all the medical staff there, and then the concussion specialists as well. You know, I wanted to go get all the information together before I made the decision, and you know, I'd been advised to sort of stop playing, but then at the end of the day, it's my decision.
Understanding brain health, understanding what sleep does, understanding what your diet does, how can you actually improve and keep the memories that you've gained?
Once we've got that awareness and the education around concussion, then I think players are taking more responsibility to go, okay, I definitely need the rest here, or I was concussed there. I'm a bit dazed, I need to go off and get assessed.
It's really well communicated, the care and support that's in place. Now, that'll continue to evolve as we get more information and the research continues. I know there are a variety of different programmes that are taking place where rugby league players are involved in, especially around brain health, and I'm full support of that. So the game will continue to improve and get better in the care it provides. So for young people who are thinking about getting involved, for parents, I think that's for them to make their own mind on whether the balance works for them. But what I would say is the game is safer than it's ever been to play, and as long as we keep moving forward with that, trying to find ways of making it safer, then I think a world without contact sport, a world without rugby is a place that misses out on so many wonderful things, and team sport gives you values and morals that you struggle to find in many other workplaces. And you know, even if you play rugby as a hobby or for sport or recreation, it still gives you those friendship and values and morals that are so important for us in life.
I care.
You care.
Rugby League Cares. Ellery was a big part of the reason why I loved the game so much. Back then he was playing at Wigan, and I was a ball boy at Oldham Rugby for 3 years. And every time Oldham played Wigan, he was the guy I tried to get the tie-ups off after the game. Could never get near him, and was in awe of him. And Ellery came and signed for Leeds, and it was a big reason. I was telling him before, it was a big reason why I came here. The other reason was my mum and dad loved the feel of the place. It wasn't a gut feeling I had. It was my mum and dad fell in love with it, and for me, it was Ellery was playing here. So I think if you were part of my generation, you looked up to Ellery, and he was the king. For everybody else who watched Ellery, he was the king, and he was the best. So to be here with him tonight is wonderful. but no, I'm delighted to say he's a friend.
I want to invite him up to the stage as well. Can you put your hands together for the one and only Ellery Hanley? Would you come up, Ellery, if you don't mind? Yeah. Ellery, thanks so much for joining us. It's so good to have you here tonight. I think it just adds even more to the occasion. How do you feel when you hear Kev Sinfield talking about you like that? What does that kind of mean to you, the man that he's become?
Well, he's a masterclass of a human being. Absolutely brilliant in all he does. You have to hold him in the highest regard. One of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And I can't tell you that. And I tell you that with pure honesty, with my heart. You know, every time I see him, I don't have to speak to Kevin every single week. And we have this acknowledgement and embracement with one another. We hug each other. We call each other brother. And I tell you, he's one of the nicest people I have the pleasure to have met. Absolutely wonderful human.
Wow. Thanks, Ellery. Listening to Ellery speak then, and I glanced to my right and I seen Kev kind of almost like shaking with emotion. I can see quite clearly that you're not able to speak at this moment, so I'm just going to ask you, how are you feeling when you hear this Ellery say that? I want to break you tonight, Kev. Are
you serious?
Yeah, I can't imagine how much listening to a hero like that. That's pretty special, mate.
Yeah, it is blown away. I think from the minute I turned up tonight and I saw the listed names, the people who were supporting us, there's sponsors who've supported us the last 4 years in the runs, there's guys who've sponsored the club for a number of years. There's so many friends in the room, there's past players. I looked at the ex-Lions table and I saw some of the names on there, Steady and Malcolm, Paul Dixon, and to name a few, and you're looking round at the names and I'm like, it's a pretty special night this. I know we're raising money for the Brain Fund and to give this a real boost to start off with, but there's some wonderful people in the room who've got a great deal of respect, and to be here with the King and him say words like that is pretty special.
There's someone who can't be here tonight and he's probably regarded as Kev's best mate, Jamie Jones Buchanan. He's actually done a little video, so I'm just going to ask you to look at the screens and listen to these nice words from his great friend Jamie Jones Buchanan, another Rhinos legend.
Good evening, Jamie Jones Buchanan here. I'm really sorry that I can't be at an evening with Kevin Sinfield at my home venue as well, Headingley Stadium, for this charity fundraising event. It's a massively important issue, and it's something that I certainly want to get behind as well, and I'm sure Kev does, which is why he's there, and I've been charged with almost an impossible task of telling some funny stories about Kev that's not going to make his halo fall off, but at the same time give you a bit of an insight into Kev away from the immaculate personality, professional sportsman or ex-professional sportsman that he's always been known to be. In fact, when Harold Cares approached me and says, "Can you come and tell us a few stories about Kev? He can't be like that, like the guy he is on the camera all day, 24/7. And I said, "No, actually, that's pretty much Kev. But yeah, what about when he's with his mates and when he's with his family and he's letting his hair down?" I went, "Yeah, that's Kev. They're his values, his behaviours. That's why he's the immaculate leader, professional that he is, the trailblazer, the guy that's influenced me more than any other human being. Somebody who's been a role model, somebody I've tried to model a lot of my own values and behaviours on, because his values, behaviours and principles are at the key of what he stands for. And actually, there are some stories that make me giggle anyway, that I could tell you, that I think highlighted from a really young age who Kevin Sinfield was and why he was going to be an immense leader. Now, he was amazing from being 12 years old. We used to play Yorkshire, Lancashire. We always used to have a bit of a rivalry, cross-Pennine rivalry. And but we both signed for Leeds, not at the same time. Kev was there way before me. But I knew how good he was, and that if I wanted to be a professional rugby player, I was probably going to have to do my best to try and hang on to his coattails and follow some of his example, because he's the picture of, I won't say perfection, nobody's perfection, but as close as any human being's ever going to get to it. The picture of stability, methodology, process he absolutely nails it down better than any human being I've ever met. And I'm, by nature, chaos. I am just chaotic, and I believe that's a strength. You know, that's where creativity comes from. That's where innovation comes from. And we did become, in time, symbiotic with a generation, a cohort of very special human beings, I'm sure, who were also in the room there, became known as the golden generation, at a time referred to as the golden decade. And I've seen him so many times on a pitch as well, when that brave, courageous warrior came through. And I think it's quite prevalent and relevant for tonight as well, 2012 grand final against Warrington. We're talking about head knocks, and rightly so. We need to cut them down, and certainly head-on-head collisions, the responsibility goes to the tackler. And remember, I can't remember what it was, maybe, I don't know, a quarter of the game in, Kevin Sinfield, our leader, we need him in the grand final, and Monaghan's come flying out of the line, clashed heads with Kev's gone down, and he's breathing autonomously. You know, it's not conscious, he's completely out cold, his eyes have gone almost black, and I'm looking down at him thinking, Kev, they're going to need you to get off the floor here, mate. I know you're knocked out, you're probably in a world of pain, you'll have an headache when you come round, but I need you to guide us. We need you to guide us around this park, kick the field goals, score a try, lead us to another grand final win. And he did in 2012. And not only did he lead us to that win, he got the man of the match as well. He got the Harry Sunderland trophy. And then I think the next day, I believe, Steve McNamara called him up and said, Kev, will you be the England captain? And they're all rightly so today. He wouldn't have been able to carry on playing, he'd come off the field. And he would have been given an head test and not been allowed to return. But in that context, in that moment, Kev showed that bravery, that trailblazer that he is. You know, the guy that's been awarded an MBE and then upgraded it to an OBE, the guy that's had a golden boot, the guy who's led the golden generation, one of the most iconic teams to 8 grand finals, you know, all these Challenge Cups, World Club Challenges. He's captained his country. He's been on BBC Sports Personality of the Year. And he jokes in his own bestseller that he wrote himself, and not only did he write it himself, but he did the audio book, I think, in one afternoon, having been asked by Audible if he could spare 3 days for the messianic leader. Did it in one afternoon. And sometimes, you know, he jokes himself that only Kevin Sinfield can lose to Andy Murray in a personality contest. But that's what makes him special, certainly on a Monday morning, because he controls what happens Monday, Tuesday, right through to taking the field Friday, and that's ultimately what gets us the win. And that's why, in 2015, having had the biggest win in a difficult year, winning the domestic treble for Leeds Rhinos, he probably, as he mentions again in his book, didn't have the chance to celebrate it with the team in the way that he would have liked to have done. So when he got nominated to be one of the candidates for BBC Sports Personality of the Year, we all went over to Belfast. We're out of the country, we're out of the way. It's a chance for Kev to let his hair down. And he was exalted, and he flew the flag for Rugby League, as he has done so many times. And I'll never forget that night we went back to the hotel, and he could let his hair down. And Kev doesn't drink much. There's a time and a place for everything. In the context of a year, there's a time and a place when he'll let his hair down. And when he does, you know, because everybody will be quite unassuming, you'll be out of the way, you'll certainly be out of public view. And all of a sudden, you know, Kev's had a few, because when he starts to go to his head, he likes to throw things. So he'd be sat down nice and quiet, and there'll be an aerial bunch, collective, a critical mass of Bombay mix flying through the air. And it'll end up landing in your eyeballs and burning you. And you think, what the? And then an ice cube will come flying over, and he's sat in a corner laughing his head off as it bounces and pings off everybody else's head. So we've gone to this hotel, Hilton Hotel, the big Hilton Hotel in Belfast. Massive Christmas tree approaching Christmas, big baubles on it. And I won't say it was Kevin Sinfield, by the way. I'm not going to say it was Kev, because this vertical tree ended up horizontal. And it might have been me, being the angelic figure that he is. I might have tried to put him on top of the tree, I don't know. Anyway, it ended up horizontal. And this foyer full of professional sports people from all kinds of disciplines turned into almost a snowball fight with these giant baubles and absolute chaos. And I'm in my bliss. I'm in the dream. Love this character. And that's when he lets his hair down and you're all laughing our heads off. some really massive memories. But the biggest part of it, I think, where Kev really shines in his leadership is that love of benevolence. Now, love's a verb. It's what you do for people. It's not an emotion. I think the doing is the root and the emotion is the fruit. But as you all know, what he's done for our comrade and brother in Rob Burrow has just blown away, transcended rugby league, it's transcended sport, and it's encapsulated the hearts and minds of a nation and many nations. And I think it's the greatest example of who Kev is and what he's become, this icon that he is here today. In doing what he's done for Rob, pledging to raise, I think, £77,000, which was an immense amount of money in rugby league terms. And he's inspired and raised well over 60 million through 3 events. And that's who he is. That's Kev. That's why we all love him. That's why he's the inspiring guy that I've always followed into battle, always have, always will. He's got a few more cheeky stories. I'm not going to tell you though. I'll let him tell you if he wants to do. So we love you to bits, mate. Thank you for what you're doing tonight. Thank you for what you do all the time, leaving that vapor trail of influence. I'll let you and the rest of the boys in the room tell the stories that you want to share. But in the meantime, if I'm all right, I'll see you pretty soon. The reason why I'm not there is I've had an operation. These braces haven't been there as a glamour item. They've been there because I've just had my face taken apart and put back together. So, God willing, I survived it, and in a few weeks' time, I'll be able to come and see you all. But in the meantime, keep smiling. All the very best. God bless.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We played against each other for a long, long time as kids. And then we were thrown in the same team in the academy. So we've been through some good times together and some difficult ones. And he's a brilliant man. We are very, very different, but I think that's why it works. He's a very, very special man.
And I don't know how you're feeling right now. Do you feel like throwing some Bombay mix around, maybe diving on a Christmas tree? I thought you was a bit more sensible than that, Kev. It's good to see you've got a bit of a wild side away from here.
Yeah, I think that night in particular at Spotty was pretty special. Like Jamie said, I didn't get a chance really to celebrate the treble properly, or as I would have liked. And it meant we got one more chance to do it over in Belfast, and it was a little bit different. And I know Sally Richardson's here tonight, who kindly donated the Wimbledon tickets. The Christmas tree did come down. Allegedly, it was me, but it wasn't.
You just stopped talking. She's just took them Wimbledon tickets back.
No, there's been some brilliant times with the lads, and the great thing about rugby is you can go on journeys and you can have nights out and you can go on tour and you can do what you do after games and actually look after each other, and that's always been the case. And that crew who are here, which probably spells, I don't know, 19 years I ended up playing. Loved every single one of them I played alongside, and there's some rogues in there, there's some idiots in there, there's some clowns, but actually they made the dressing room what they were, which was fun to go to work every day.
Absolutely. You mentioned some idiots and clowns, so I might as well get them on stage now while you just pointed them out there as well. Some of your former teammates, absolute legends, all of them as well. I'm going to ask them to come to the stage. I've not teed them up. I hope they don't mind. So can you put your hands together, please, for Keith Senior, for Matt Diskin, Francis Cummins, Richie Mathers, and Gaz Ellis, if you will. I don't really know who to start with, to be honest. So, Kev, I'll just kind of start with you. Just seeing your reaction when they walk up. Do you know, it's like a long time since you played, but that bond, that spirit, that camaraderie, you can see quite clearly it's not gone away. You've got a bond for life with these guys.
Yeah, I think there's some teams throughout history in loads of different sports that have a bond. Winning trophies helps, but I think regardless of trophies, at the end of the day, this group would have stood the test of time, and they're a special group. You know, that look in each other's eyes in dressing rooms before games when nothing needs to be said, you just know. And I feel very, very fortunate that I can call these guys friends, not only teammates but friends, and they're good guys, and I do anything for them.
I know he certainly would as well. I'm going to bring Keith in there as well. Keith, great to see you. If you can stop looking like you just want to have a fight with someone, that'd be fantastic as well. Just being here tonight with Kev and Rob and all your teammates, pretty special, mate, for you.
Yeah, definitely. And like what Kev says, you know, there's always going to be that bond. And just Kev then, he just said, go easy on me. I have got some stuff on him, but I live in a very, very delicate glass house, and he knows a lot more shit about me than I do about him, so I won't be throwing any of them bombs tonight.
Why don't you go first, and I'll take the microphone off him so he can't reply. What was he like as a leader, as a captain? Because it's quite clear he got the best out of everybody, Keith.
Yeah, he's meticulous, and that was one of the beauties about Kevin. People talk about the preparation, and you can talk about the 10,000 hours, and he epitomised that type of thing. And you can see how he talks. He puts a lot of effort, and he puts a lot of thought, and he puts a lot of process in it, and it comes from the heart. And that's one of the things that makes it genuine, is the fact that you know that he believes it, and it's coming from what he really truly believes. And I remember one time, I think it was the 2000 World Cup, when we went over to Florida for the one with the training camp, and Scrapper, God bless his soul, was the S&C. We all had to do a speech talking about what it meant to you to be in there, being the international scene. And he was in the military, and he was talking about it was quite an emotional speech, talking about, you know, some of his comrades dying and what he'd been through, etc. And then Kev had to go after him. And Kev, again, it was a case of whoever went after Scrapper, and we had a little bit of a joke out. This is going to be hard to follow that because of the emotion that come out of it. But then Kev spoke about the situation that he'd been through and being left out of the Challenge Cup final and some of the emotion. And he just nailed it, and you knew that it was heartfelt, and it made the occasion really, really emotive. It just made, again, for that next person, and I can't remember who it was, whoever had that next speech after him, absolutely died a death. Because you just couldn't follow it. It's like having Ellery Hanley come up on the stage, and then you've got this poor set of boys' own band coming up next. It's like going from the penthouse to the house, isn't it? So, you know, that's Kevin Sinfield to a T. Like I say, there's not much to say about him because he's a perfect character. Peter Perfect, you know, we used to call him because he didn't do anything wrong, but that was just how he lived his life. There are a few demons in there, not many, but a few demons. But they didn't come out. And Jones is saying, throwing things. How many times have you cut my head open with ice? You knew it as soon as something had come on. With being a bald head as well, sensitive skin, I'm a sensitive sore at heart. I'd cut, and I'd have big cuts all over my head, and it were down to that over there.
Keith, that's been lovely words there. Just wanted to kind of wondered if you want to get else off your chest while you're up here, mate, as well.
But it's just like Ellery, this text me and Disco just had a bit of a laugh and joke about it. Ellery, really heartfelt text message. I just sent, Bob on, young'un.
Maybe that's where Ellery was a much better player than you then as well, really. So, no, I'm only messing. Richie, thanks for joining us tonight, mate. You and Kev go back a long way as well. I remember you as a young lad playing in Leeds Rhinos first team, and I think you looked about 17, and you still do now. So, firstly, what's it like being back sitting on this stage next to Kev for you?
Yeah, it's an honour to be asked to be invited with the ex-players, but then also with the guests that we've got in the room as well, and for such a great cause, and then obviously supporting all our mate in Rob. So it's an honour to be asked back.
Thanks, Richie, and thanks for your few words there as well. Obviously, it's Kev's big night. Have you got no else to add to that, really? Because
I'm waiting for your next question.
No, I just thought it was pretty. To be fair, mate, I was hoping that we might have to do a swap. No, I'm only joking as well. Kev, what a player Richie was as well, one of the best.
Yeah, he was, yeah. We were sad to lose him, actually. Richie got a contract offer over in the NRL. and really at his straps. He was playing some great stuff, won the grand final in 2004, and we missed him.
Thanks. It's funny that, Kev, because she said something different to me before we got him on stage. So fair play for you. What that like leaving Rhinos as well, because that must have been pretty tough.
Yeah, it was tough. I think, to touch on Kev, I think, people have, seen the success the first team had and that he led all that success for such a long period of time, but it started for such many years before then. When we joined the academy, I'm probably the youngest of this lot sat up here. Rob's a year older than me, but the academy grand final was won 8 consecutive years when we joined, and Kev was the standard bearer of that, and it was an expectation of that young group and Michael with them, some of them idiots that Kev alluded to. I'll let you guess who were that age group or who were my teammates and that, but that was the standard bearer of what was expected, and that was set by Kev, at that early stage, and then to get through to the first team, he was generous with his time. He was always out, doing extras with us all, but also, handled the group well, because there was some really strong characters in there. We were all really young. We were all 18 and 19, and there was no division within the group, obviously with so many Great Britain internationals and Australian internationals, but then we had a real core group of young Leeds lads and young lads who come through the academy who were bursting for the chance. But we had a fantastic mix, and to win that grand final in the first one in 34 years for the club was special, and it's memories that have stood the test of the time. It's coming up to 20 years now, which is incredible, but to do it with these guys and still have the friendship and the bonds that we've got has been incredible.
I don't think we could get two people more similar to each other than you two, Kev Sinfield and Gaz Ellis. You just the way you are, you're ambassadors for the game, both leaders as well. I'm probably going to, instead of asking you about yourself, guys, just ask you about Kevin, almost probably the influence he had on you.
Yeah, Kev had a massive influence on me. I think I was only at Leeds for 4 years, but my affiliation to Leeds feels a lot longer than that. And a lot of that's to do with the players up here and the players alongside, but Kev as well. We're the same age, myself and Kev. But I was captain of Wakefield in 2004, and it wasn't until I got to Leeds and saw Kev as a captain where I realised just how much more there was to leadership. So it was a really big influence on me, and Kev was probably the reason why I signed for Leeds in the first place. Leeds won the grand final in 2004. I'd gone to watch the grand final. I think I'd been invited by Leeds to go with a view to possibly signing the following year. And Kev was making his way up the stands I think he was to see Jane actually, and after winning the grand final, one of the biggest moment of his career at that point. And I remember he clocked me and made his way over to me and shook my hand and said, "Oh, I've heard you might be joining Leeds. It's a great club, as you've seen, and let's catch up at the cup. Let's catch up." And I remember thinking, what a thing to do when you've just won the grand final, to come and speak to someone, say hello to someone. Obviously, we knew each other from international rugby, but for someone to do that just is the mark of the man, and that's probably the thing that I got from Kev, is that he cared, and he cared about every single one of us, a great deal of empathy towards every single one of us, and he cared about the team, and that's probably the overriding memory I have of Kev, particularly as a captain, a leader, and a friend while I was at Leeds.
Gaz, what a fabulous story. Thanks for sharing that with us as well. Gaz Ellis. Thanks, Gaz. Brilliant, that one. Franny, I'll bring you in, Franny, as well. I think when just hearing Gaz talk about Kev, it kind of shows the class of him as a person as well. You probably found that as well. I know that you were the captain of Leeds, and Kev took over the captaincy. It's kind of one of them awkward situations, but I heard he held himself, in just exemplary way of doing it with you.
Oh yeah, it's not awkward at all. I think, and I did say this to him at the time. I said, "You're the right man for the job." I think, I'd supported Leeds all my life, really, and I was lucky enough to get in the first team really young. Ellery sat next to, imagine sitting next to Ellery Hanley in a training session. I was there for 2 years, loved it. I got to Wembley very, very lucky, but it wasn't until we started to achieve, and Kev was obviously one of the main things, the reasons why we did it. It was the changing of the guard. The game had started to change, and I think Kev was the one who really just lived it. You know, we most of the squad lived it a little bit and enjoyed other bits, but Kev didn't. He lived his life, and I think it's the honesty. But it's not only that. I think Ellery spoke about it as well. Good people. I think you just tell you're just a good person, and that rubs off on other people. It takes the edge off a few characters, and I think I spanned that time before. We worked really hard, but we didn't win anything. And it was just the elation of winning something with these lot who've come through and become, well, they were golden generation, and I was the generation before that weren't quite good enough. But I would be really proud just to be part of that and to help these lads along, because I didn't play in that grand final in 2004, but it was one of the highlights of my career. Yeah. Just to get it done, because the place had ghosts around it here for many years. He'd not won a championship for, like I said, 30 odd years. We won a Challenge Cup, but we couldn't get the main thing, and these lads and we collectively did it, and it was a special time.
I think it's great, and I think everybody should buy into it and get as much out there as they can. The game has changed a lot compared to when myself played, and we didn't know anything, we didn't see anything, but at the moment, everything's getting published, everything's out there, and I think we've got to take notice of what's happening.
I think half the time as a player, you probably never reported them either. You got dazed and a few stars here and there. You just got on with it because that was just part and parcel. You weren't really aware of any dangers at that point. And when I was playing earlier in my career, only towards the back end you really did. And it didn't really change my mindset because I've been brought up in an era where it was, like I say, it was a badge of honour. I think you look now, I've got young kids and my lads playing in there. I think the education and the preventative measures that have been put in their place are nothing but positive.
Yeah, I think everyone's highlighted what Kev is. He understands people. He takes time to understand them. And if I can relate that to being here at Yorkshire Carnegie when he made the bold move to leave the Rhinos and go to the dark side, and we had some funny occasions when the Kirkstall got flooded and we had to train across the bridge over there, and it was bog as it was, and staying out and doing stuff, and Kev used to come in and say to me, "What do you want, Brush?" And I was like, "Well, realistically, I just want you being you. I just want you around a group of people that all here are admiring you." And I saw fear in his eyes because he's playing a sport that is really different. When you actually get down to the nuts and bolts of it, the games are so different. And when you're in it, it's totally different. And I felt Kev was in that situation. If it had been 8 years earlier, I think he would have shone and would have done exceptionally well. The likely Owen Farrells of the world right nowadays, he could have been that kind of star in rugby union, there's no question. But at that time, I could see some fear in his eyes, thinking, how do I cope with this? But as Kev Sinfield said, I'm here to give it for everyone. And we went on to lose in a championship playoff final against London Irish, 57-49. I think the final score was over 2 legs. And Kev was part of that group that was in there. Wasn't necessarily the integral part on the pitch because he had so much to learn in a short space of 5 months. But it was a huge part of changing the people that were there at that time that didn't give a, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, but I couldn't give a about what they were doing. Kev made them understand and realise that you should enjoy what you've got because it does stop.
I know I briefly touched on some of the challenges that Kev has partaken in his life. Some of the people that have done it alongside him are here tonight. So I'm going to ask them if they'd like to come and join us. Put your hands together, please, for David Spencer, Chris Stevenson, Darryl Rogers, Phil Allingen and James Moran, if you will, guys. Thank you so much. Kevin, I'll probably get you to speak about these guys. They're all probably nervous coming up on stage, but you've seen your old teammates come up, your Leeds Rhinos teammates, and just watching your reaction there, this is almost kind of a similar thing. These are like your new teammates, aren't they?
Yeah, very much so. Do you know, they're a great group of guys. There's a few more in the room actually who've not been mentioned, but Gemma's here. Gemma Phillips, who saw on has been our doctor the last couple of years, has been a huge part of what we've done. Phil Daly, Edda Combs immediately, Rhinos has been absolutely brilliant. Gemma Bonner, who you mentioned at the start, has ran with us.
Can't we get them all on just for a photograph at least? Can you all come on stage as well? Come on, you deserve to be up here as well.
Ben Jones as well. So we've had an incredible team, and right at the very start, because of COVID, getting up to 4 years ago now, it was just a couple of messages to some mates who said, we're going to try and raise a bit of money for Rob. Do you fancy joining in? They didn't quite know what they're signing up for. And we're still going strong now. So it's been an absolute honour to have the time I've had with them, because we've got an unbelievable bond now. All these have done all this completely volunteered. They've put their hands in their pockets to pay for cars, to drive all the way across the country, to put in hotels, to pay for meals, to actually get there and want to be part of something. And every time I've said to them, guys, we need to be there. I need you to do this. Can you help with this? I've never had a no. And it's testament to the group. They just want to help. And they're in this as much as I am. Some of them now are getting a little bit older, as we all are, and are creaking a bit, but we'll go as long as we can, and we'll keep going at it.
Thanks, Kev. I'm going to ask you guys, why did you do it, and what did you get out of it? Because you must, I'll be honest with you, some of the challenges you've done, you must have a screw loose. You're taking your body to places that is just unheard of.
I suppose, why do we do it? We have our inspiration in Rob and Lindsay and the M&D community and the band of brothers, and we have an amazing leader in Kev, and you can see the team. So yeah, that's why we do it.
And keep on doing what you do. We're so proud to have you up here. You can actually hear a pin drop. Just regarding the challenges, I don't know if anyone's got any experiences that they want to share, just how tough it's actually been at times. I'm sure you've had to take yourself to places that you never thought you'd take yourself to. Anyone? You've all gone right quiet on me, haven't you, as well?
Yeah, just to...
Are you going?
Eh?
Are you going to me?
You go.
You go.
You go. Just to reiterate David's point, when Kev asks you to do something, it's when, not yes or no. We'll just do it. And I think that's testament to him as a leader, that when he tells you to run, you run. When he tells you to stop, you carry on running, just to make sure that you're in front of him. So it's been tough, but we've done it for the same cause, because we're friends and we're doing it for a mate.
Yeah, it's been great. It really has. We've had some fun. We don't have any rules when we've been in camp. We've been staying in hotels, and this one that's coming up in just over 2 weeks is a fair amount of logistics that Phil has done a great job with behind the scenes. But getting 18 people out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning to get on a start line to run 40 miles at 7 in the morning is easier said than done, because this is not a Kipchoge sub-2-hour marathon event. This is not a fun run either, but it's bang smack in the middle, so we go and have a good time, but we've got to get the job done, which means you can do what you want with your spare time, but whatever time we're up in the morning, you're there and you're good to go. You might have had a few beers, no problem, but you're on the start line, you're ready to run, and they're a brilliant team, and we've got a real mix of personalities and characters. We get some people who come and join us for different sections. We get sponsors who come and join us who've been... Without the sponsors, the support, and you know, we wouldn't have got any of this off the ground. But I give an example. Those who've sponsored in previous years, I sent a text out, and within 4 hours, we got 185 grand of people wanting to back us. So it's pretty special.
It's just incredible, Kev, as well. I'm going to ask you, what's the hardest point you've been through? I'll think about your rugby career, the 2015, the treble. You won that. It was an incredible game, 22-20 against Wigan. You played that game with a broken hand. You've played games with broken cheekbones. I feel pathetic. I once pulled out of a second team game for Illingworth with a verruca. It was quite a bad one. It was on my big toe, actually. But what's the hardest moment in all those amazing challenges that you've done? Because you have really pushed your body through its limits at times. What's the kind of lowest point where you thought, I can't go on with this?
The toughest moment was not actually part of the challenges or part of my playing career. It was preparing for the first one we did, and it was the first time I'd run back-to-back marathons. So by that stage, I probably ran 4 or 5, but you spaced out the like 6 months between. And you do London, then you do Yorkshire Marathon, and you have time to build up and get ready. And it was before the first one. Decided to do a 3 and 3. So it was 3 marathons in 3 days. And backing up day 2 was probably the darkest I've ever been. Yeah, running deepest, darkest Saddleworth in the cold and wet in November, is tough. And I think being able to dig in and get through those 3, you just get so much confidence from being able to get through. And the group train incredibly hard. Nobody sees when these 2 in particular who run alongside me are up at silly o'clock doing what they do in the cold and wet. We get asked quite a bit why we don't do it in summer, but we actually think doing it in the cold and wet looks harder. And people are a bit more generous, so we feel we've got a bit of a sweet spot in the calendar. It's worked really well for us. That time of year when the Christmas lights are coming out and people seem a bit more generous because it's coming up to Christmas, and people have had a few more drinks because it's coming up to Christmas, and hopefully we get supported again this time.
Kev, you will definitely get supported this time as well. I've just got a little story that I want to say in front of you all as well, because I watched a lot of you do this. When you did the run and you came through Halifax, I'd actually worked on the Friday night down south. I got home at 3:15 in the morning, and I set my alarm clock for 6:30 because I knew Kev was going to be running through Halifax. I didn't have a shower. I didn't comb my hair. I went down, and I was on just by People's Park where you were going to be stopping. It was about 7:30 in the morning. I weren't bothered if you didn't see me. I just wanted to clap you and go wow, because I was almost in awe what you were doing. And as I got to go over to People's Park, one of the guys on a support bike, he says, "Hey mate, how are you doing?" He recognised me and he says, "He's just in town now, he'll be up in a few minutes if you want to wait there." And I thought, I'm going to wait, and I don't care if you see me, I'll just applaud you and stand in awe. And you came up and you was on the opposite side of the road. I don't know if you remember, Kev, but you saw me and you veered over to me and you give me an high five, and I said something nice to you and you said something nice back, and then you carried on. I thought, wow. And then you went into People's Park and my phone was in my pocket and my phone started going mental. I thought, what's happening? It's like 8:20 in the morning, and I looked. And I didn't know, but BBC, I was on live on BBC where I was stood, but I didn't know. And all my mates were going, "What a you'll do to get on television, you," and everything like that. And then I went into People's Park. I didn't get to speak to you, but I was just thought, I just wanted to be there to support you. And then following day, someone sent me a video through of the bit on the news where you veered over and you high-fived me, which meant the world to me. And then about an hour later, I seen a video of you getting caught short at Shibden, having a quick slash. And then I realised that was 1 mile before you high-fived me and you'd not wash your hands as well. So none of that is made up. So basically, you just wiped your hands on me, didn't you, Kev? And I've not washed them since, let me tell you. Guys, we're so proud to have you on us. I'm in awe of all of you. Put your hands together for every single one of these legends on this stage as well. And the one and only, how good has it been to have this man here tonight? Put your hands together, please, for the final time, the legend that is the one and only Kev Sinfield.
Brunel funds a fantastic new initiative from Rugby League Cares to help former and present players.
This sort of stuff wasn't around when I was still playing, so it's a fantastic concept and I'd urge everyone to get involved.
One great thing about Rugby League is in time of need, we all come together, but we can't do this without your support.
In the words of Kevin Sinfield, it's important that people support this because we need your cash. Without the cash, the research can't be funded, and obviously these are life-changing situations that are happening to former players and potentially some of the current players when they retire. So the more cash that we can get, the more knowledge we can raise and the more education we can get out there around brain injuries.